Matt, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm great, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to meet you and connect. Our listeners just got a nice earful of your lengthy bio, and I would love, as a jumping off point to the conversation, I would love for you to take our audience back. You can start in college or maybe your first job or however you would like to take it, but kind of try to trace your career arc a little bit and tie together some of the amazing things that you've done with your career so far.
All right. Well, we'll go back to high school because I'm sure a lot of your audience had the same experience as I did. People they admire saying, you should do this. Have you thought about that? As well as really no understanding of what was out there. And I grew up in New Mexico, which there's just whole segments of the economy missing in New Mexico. Like I didn't know what an entrepreneur was. And the car dealers are number one, then lawyers and doctors, then everybody else. And, I didn't know that there were excellent entrepreneurial jobs. I just didn't know what was out there. So I left New Mexico and went to college. And, I think that there's a natural, there's a systemized, systemic lack of fairness and logic to finding a career. So you're in high school, you're watching TV, you know about doctors, lawyers, firemen, police, what your parents do. You used to know what your friends' parents did. Now people don't even ask that anymore. And then you get to college and they say, hey, pick a major. And by the way, in 4 years after we keep you in this little bubble, you got to figure out your whole life. And I find that to be kind of stressful unnecessarily because you're going to change your career a bunch of times. There's not enough tools. They could give disc tools. There's so many things we could do to help people figure out what their career is. And then they go off and wander the world like Cain and hope to figure it out. So I luckily ran into some people that had a business internship and they said, hey, do this business internship. And I didn't know what a business internship was. So I took the opportunity and I did really well at it. And then I was promoted. And then luckily the company went bankrupt. So we got to start the company up again. And all of a sudden I was an entrepreneur. So I guess the first turning point was serendipity, being open to opportunities. I always had a strong work ethic, so not being afraid of hard work. And then there was a lot of forks in the road. And pretty much every fork in the road was the hard way or the easy way. And pretty much every fork in the road was, do I want to help other people or do I want to take care of myself? And I always take the hard road. I always go to help other people. Most of the things I do for free, but other opportunities arise from that. And so, I volunteered on a charity board and then I was on another charity board. And then I was chairman of this board, chairman of that board, chairman of the global board, flying all over the world, meeting all these heads of state and big business leaders, and just more and more doors opened up because of serendipity, taking the hard road and looking out for others.
So you mentioned the internship, and but right before that, you kind of said, didn't quite know what I wanted to do. Did you have a number of internship opportunities? What was the internship that you took? Explain that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in New Mexico and my family was middle class, so I always had jobs. And, we measure in the internship I now own, we measure a bunch of things that make people successful. Did they work 3 years or more in high school is one of them. If you say yes to that, you're one notch up. Did you work full time? And I always hear from my friends, yeah, but what about sports? Who gives a shit about sports? And I went to the hockey game with a 12-year NBA athlete. He's in real estate now. So yeah, he played in the NBA and people know who he is, but that doesn't last very long. And most people don't go to the NBA. So I had to work and I played sports and I was an intercollegiate athlete, but I wasn't going pro into the NFL and I knew it. So I had to do other things. So I had this internship. It was called Student Works Painting then. We changed the name to College Works Painting. And I got to run a little painting company in Santa Barbara, California, which I had no idea how to do. I was the worst salesperson. I was totally incompetent at getting leads and marketing. My entire workforce quit on me while I was throwing a barbecue for them. They all walked, stamped all my flowers and all left. So I was the worst sales, worst marketing, worst boss, but I was all the worst at age 20. So when I got out of school at 21 or whatever you are when you get out of school, I wasn't the worst anymore. And so I had enough confidence that business fell apart. We restarted that business. And then through serendipity, again, there was a guy that was in that business that wanted to do something else. So we started a business with him. And then another person that wanted to do something else. And we started a business with them. And over time, we ended up with a portfolio of companies from serendipity and hard work and hanging out with people like us.
And so the internship program that you're talking about eventually turned into what is now College Works. Is that correct?
Yes,
I just want to make sure we tie that together.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So you had kind of a window into, early problems in terms of even selecting a college and what to do. There's really a lot of overlaps. I had my dad is a lawyer. And so that's kind of all I really knew. And I didn't feel like I really understood or had an appreciation for all of the options out there. So it's really interesting. Did you end up falling in love with what you did, or was there something else that kind of triggered you to keep going, or was it just this kind of continuous process of hard work, failing, serendipity, making it work that you just kind of kept running with?
Well, I had this exact same background as you. My dad wasn't a lawyer, but my grandfather was a doctor, so I wanted to be a doctor. And then I passed out in the operating room at 12 years old watching a surgery. And I didn't pass out when they cut the kid open. I passed out when they stuck the tube down his throat. So no way can I be a doctor. So that was off the list at 12. And then everybody was telling me, be a lawyer, be a lawyer, be a lawyer, because I can talk and I can sell. And we're watching whatever law show, and we're watching the lawyers in front of the courtroom, and they're doing a great job selling. And I thought, okay, great. But then I realized what a lawyer really is. A lawyer is an exact professional. They focus on perfection. Every word matters. And I started to realize, wait a second, that's not me. Now, I could have taken a DISC test and figured that out. I didn't know what that was at the time. So if you don't know what you're doing, take a DISC test and figure it out. It makes it a lot. There's science that'll help you. And then I did this internship and I went, oh, wow. Business is cool. I get to use my gift of gab in business and the sales aspect. I get to organize people. I wanted to be a partner in the law firm. I could just organize them in a different business. My dad was a teacher. I always wanted to be a teacher. So now I get to teach business to people and I don't have to deal with the rules. I'm not a rules person. So how can I be a lawyer that enforces rules if I'm not a rules person? I'll be a business person, an entrepreneur that breaks the rules for a living. That's what we do. And then teach other people how to break the rules too, I guess.
That's very interesting. And so you just kind of kept following that path along. And a lot of what you do today is really talking about, or not talking about, but actually mentoring and helping the younger generation figure out what they want to do.
Yeah, my brother was chief of staff of Microsoft, and he was like the number 2 or 3 guy at Salesforce. And he's always been a real high level executive. And he says, you try it out for at least a year, commit for at least a year. So I committed for a year. I was really horrible. I wanted to stop because I was so horrible, but I committed. And then I got through that learning curve and found out I was pretty good at it. And so the business opportunity kind of opened up for me. And like I said, I wanted to be a teacher. So I had teaching on my own terms, and I still will retire and sell all my companies and become a substitute teacher one day. And I already know what school I'm going to. I was chairman of their school board too. So I have this plan to come full circle. But in the meantime, I like the game of business. And so I conduct the game of business in the construction industry, and we have a few companies, and the real estate industry. But where I spend my time, what my day job is coaching people on business, because I've always wanted to be the teacher. I like the sparkle in their eyes when they figure it out. And, for a hobby, and I've got a kid in college, I've got a kid almost in college. I coach people on getting into college because I guess I didn't know I was good at it. Serendipity again. I helped my son and he got into all these schools he should have never got into because of the gift of gab. We did a good job of kissing butt and getting to know people and letting them know we were serious. We're not playing games here. We want to go to your school. And that worked. So I help other kids for free do that. And then I help people find their careers. And that came out of working at College Works. I take the top 100 people every year, give them a DISC test, and they want to be an accountant. And I give them a DISC test and say, no, you're going to hate that. Let me give you some alternatives, because your personality is the opposite personality of someone that's following the rules, working within the box, which we need. We need all sorts of people. But if you're an accountant type person going into sales, you're going to hate your job. And if you're a sales type person going into accounting, you're going to hate your job. So through College Works is kind of a bonus I would do for the top 100 people every year. I tried to automate it. I couldn't automate it. So I'm still doing small little groups, but I made my own podcast to try to help people figure out their career. So it's my passion, it's my pastime, and it's my job. So when I'm not mountain biking or backcountry skiing or touring around the world, I'm in there helping high school and 20 somethings because I was one and I'm glad people helped me. So I'm paying it forward.
Excellent. So yeah, like I kind of mentioned before, our audience is really, looking at the world, trying to figure out, how to get ahead. And I mean, I think a big part of that, it's a gnarly problem because in some ways there's opportunity overload. But obviously like selecting a career that you love and can thrive in is a huge part of that. So what, in your mind, when a person is looking to select their career, what are some of the steps? Maybe what's missing? Like what are some common pitfalls that people just miss? I mean, you kind of start with just DISC test, right? Like take a test and understand your personality and in there, but from there, where do you kind of go?
Well, I think that's a big miss. And I think all the universities should have a semester where they do a personality test, who you are, figure that out, and then match it up with jobs. So I think understanding that and DISC test, that's the one I've always used. Strength Finder is one. Myers-Briggs is core personality. I don't like it as much. DISC is behavioral patterns. But if you start there and you figure out how you interact with the world, that can eliminate a lot of careers. So for me, I score in a way, DI, I drive things, I influence people. I can't do accounting, research, coding, computer programming, contract law, medicine. So all the things I wanted to do, archaeology was another one I wanted to do. All that's wrong for me. So I think step one is really gut check where you think you're going. Step two, I think, is make a job out of getting a job. And I see my son, he's at Tulane University, and he applies for a design internship with a couple of people he knows, and then he waits. I said, that's not how you do it. Make it a 40-hour-a-week job. And I spend a couple hours a day looking and sourcing the leads and figuring out where you might want to apply. Spend a couple of hours a day making individual cover letters and making calls. Spend a couple hours a day soliciting interviews. Then do a bunch of interviews and get 10 second interviews. And get 6 job offers. So you choose the best one. And I think, those are 2 steps that are missing. And I think a big one, if you haven't worked a lot, go work a lot. You got to get the pizza place job. Then you got to move up to the counter job and learn how to deal with people. Then you got to move up to the other crap job that's beneath you because you have a college degree from Madison and you're a genius. But if you don't go through those steps, you're not getting hired. And I had a young woman from TCU the other day. I was coaching a friend of mine's daughter, coaching. My buddy owns all the companies she wants to work at. He owns Reef and Dakine and Canoe and LibTech and all these action sports companies. And he used to be the CEO of Oakley. And I sent her resume to him. And I said, hey, if you have any internships, you want to pass it on? And he said no. And he said no, because her resume was 1/4 sorority volunteer crap that no one gives a shit about. And then she'd had a couple little jobs. I mean, we want to see that. This is the easiest job market in the world, but we want to see people are going to be able to work hard and see people have made the right decision. And if you're going into an interview and you've worked hard, you've got a personality test where you can say, hey, this is the type of person I am. You've got some experience, and you might be 25 right now, twiddling your thumbs, waiting tables on some job. You can't move off of that. You just started your process late.
So it was really interesting. You said make a job out of getting a job. I think that's definitely like one of the most overlooked things in terms of getting a first job, a second job. But when you're young, a lot of people just, if they haven't had a job, they don't know how to make it a job. And I think what you were talking about, to just break that down a little bit, is like, what are all the inputs that you have to do, and how do you measure them, right? Like, you have to kind of go in and expect that I have to do more than I'm going to necessarily get out of. Like, I need to send 100 cover letters. They need to be, different and tailored. And then I can expect to see this many interviews, and I can expect to get, one job out of this whole, creating this whole like systematized funnel. And it seems like those are the types of things where, higher education is kind of failing people.
Yeah.
In terms of, thinking through the problem and how do you systematize it? Are there other ways? How do you think this? What is the state of education in your mind, higher education, around preparing people, and what is their job for it?
Sorry, the phone rang.
No problem. The question was, how do you see the state of higher education in terms of preparing young people to be in the workforce, and what responsibility do they have in this whole thing?
I think the process to get into college is not the same as the process getting out of college. You got your athletics and you've got your community service and you're full of crap. You didn't do anything. You joined a club. You never went there. You played sports. You're not going to be a pro. You write a great essay, which is great for some careers. You do well on tests, and smart matters. Book smart does matter, but to get into college is different than getting a job out of college. Out of college, they want experience. That's it. They want experience and attitude. Nobody cares Microsoft does an interview out of the top 20 colleges. A lot of companies will throw your resume away if you're below a 3.5. So that does exist. But I placed somebody in Goldman Sachs for my internship who went to a number 90 school. She had pretty good grades, I think. I don't know. I never asked her what her grades were, but she had great experience and she had great recommendations. So I think there's a disconnect in getting into college and getting a job out of college. I don't think the universities care that much on what happens after school. They care what their graduation rate is and what their acceptance rate is. So they're not spending the money and the energy preparing people to find the perfect careers, unfortunately, even if they have a great network. And I think the steps are, one, make sure your resume is dialed in, not with crap, but dialed in with real stuff. And you can start now. Go work for the next couple of years. You're going to live till you're 120 years old. You've got time. So I think the first thing is getting your resume dialed in. Second thing, those inputs, it's easy to settle. It's easy to procrastinate. It's easy to be lazy on things that don't deliver immediate value. So getting a job is an immediate win, right? Getting a paycheck's an immediate win. So we got to manufacture other wins. So you can measure your time put in. Are you spending 20, 30, 40 hours a week putting time in? And then there's little wins. Did you find 20 jobs that you're interested in? Did you send out 20 resumes? Did you make 20 phone calls? And the act of finding a job is a win. The act of sending something out is a win. The act of getting someone on the phone is a win. An interview is a win. A second interview is a win. So you can set yourself up to feel better about the steps so you can front load the effort, because you got two choices. Take the crap job that comes to you, work it for a few years, quit, start all over, and then lead a miserable, mediocre life, or front load it, find the perfect job for you, or so you think, get started with it. If it's not the perfect job, you've already done all the work. Those companies still want to hire you. The one you said no to 3 months ago will hire you now if you made a mistake, and find something that's going to launch you. So I accidentally stumbled across this stupid painting internship, is what we used to call it. And oh my God, it changed my life. I didn't know what was out there. And thank God I accidentally stumbled across it. But yeah, I had a lot of jobs. I was set up in another internship. I was going to go to DC and work for Congressman Michael Huffington, whose wife Ariana started the Huffington Post. And I'd been a flyer guy for him and done all this stuff. I canceled that and took the better job. And that's a great place to be in. You cancel one. They called me up to join this board. I said, I'll join the board if I'm the chairman. They said, well, you can't do that. I said, then I'm not joining the board. That's a great place to be in when you're calling your own shots like that, because you've done the steps and you've front loaded the energy. So your network is your net worth. So what are you doing to maintain relationships? What are you doing to do favors for other people? I don't ask people favors. I do favors, and then they come offer favors to me. And what are you doing with your biggest resource you have, yourself, to go out there and sell yourself?
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like, in my view, one of the biggest impediments for younger people getting jobs right now is everything is like immediate feedback in our culture right now. And just the idea of going through the hard work, especially around networking, networking is something that I think when I was in college, I wasn't a huge fan of. I didn't see the value in. And as I got into like just out of college, it was like, man, if I put the effort in here to develop this relationship and these relationships, like that has a really long-term payoff, like for almost every single one of them. But people don't want to necessarily go do that in today's world. And I think that's in my view, that's one of the biggest impediments to people getting jobs is just do the work. And
networking, it used to have a really bad connotation, and I never wanted to network. And I don't like asking favors for people. And I keep track, and I figure out, wait a second, I've got too many favors. I got to do something for them. So for me, networking is a little different. I think most people think of it as do what you need to do so they can do something for you later. And that's not how I think of it. I think of it as how can you help everyone around you? So I help kids because a lot of my friends, I can never help them. You know, they're set up financially, or they have all the toys and they've got the planes and I don't have the planes, and they're taking me places. What can I do for them? I can help their kids. That's what I can do. That's what I'm good at. That's my calling. So I can help their kids get into school, help their kids find a career, help straighten their kids out when something's going wrong, talk to them on the side. So what can you deliver of value to your mentor that's 55 years old? What can you deliver of value to your friend's parents? What can you do just because you want to help, not because something's coming back to you? That to me it's not networking, it's relationship building. And when I was 11 years old, I went to England to stay with my grandparents. And my dad said on the way out, watch your grandfather, Ken. That guy's good at relationship building. And I watched him, and he calls people to check in on them, and he does favors, and he takes their trash in when they're sick. And he's just constantly doing things. So when I would come to town, they would roll out the red carpet for me. And I saw he doesn't care. He's not asking for anything. He's constantly lifting the world up. And yeah, you're right. Your generation is used to this instant response, but it's all superficial. Like, how do you look in your bikini? And how great was your vacation? There's no depth to it. So you can pause and get deeper. And just one thing I do every Friday, I have Friday friend calls. I got a list of people I'm calling on Friday to check in on. Someone's mom's sick. When things go really bad, I put it in every other day, and people go, oh, you're so great at checking on your friends. No, I'm not. I forget everything. It shows up in my schedule. So that sort of thing creates a wake behind you, and then people want to help you. It's not doing it to be helped. It's doing it to help the world, and then they will want to help.
Yeah. Completely agree. For our audience, stop thinking about it as networking, start thinking about it as relationship building.
Yeah.
But a specific kind of follow-up question is, if let's say I'm 20 years old, I'm still in college, I'm trying to get my first job. I may not feel like I have, how does somebody in that age range provide value? And think about as providing value when they might feel like they're networking up.
Yeah. And you know, a lot of time it's not, you know, people come, but the act of trying is respectable. But I had this kid, Van, come to my office the other day. He's going to Mardi Gras, and everything fell apart. My son's freaking out, and they're not allowed to bring their friends to the dorms because Tulane sent an email 3 weeks before. This huge disaster. So I get a couple hotel rooms, and I just got hotel rooms to solve my son's problem. His buddy Van comes to my office, brings a bottle of wine, which I couldn't believe because he's not old enough, and a Kith Star Wars shirt because he knows I love Star Wars and my son loves Kith. So I have all this Kith clothing. And he sits down and he's like, yeah, I really appreciate you getting me the hotel. I've never stayed in that hotel. I heard it's really nice. It was the only hotel that took points. I used my points. And then he started running me through his ideas. And, you know, some of the ideas were pretty good. Some of them have already been happening. He's got this little list of business ideas. And I said, hey, Van, listen to my podcast and give me some feedback. And he gave me like 2 pages of feedback. So now I have hashtag give Van a chance as a little saying I have with one of my girlfriends who also knows Van. And I'm constantly barraging her with all this great stuff about Van. And her family owns a basketball team, and her family is a famous entrepreneurial family, and they've got an investment company. They got all these connections. And I'm just lobbying for Van because Van took the time, and Van made and helped me out. Now, how did he help me out? He's 18 years old and understands the audience better than I do of my own podcast. He's 18 years old and understands digital media better than I do. I can't even get my damn calendar to connect to my phone. So like, I need that help. So you might be younger, but there's something that you've got that someone else needs. But I'll tell you what else. I've got 2 kids. One's in his 20s, one's 17. It's so awesome when their friends even want to talk to me at all. So if I have that friend of my kids that just spends time talking to me or asks me what I do or asks me what my day is, instead of just taking all my food and taking all my stuff and spitting me out the other side, I enjoy the interaction. So you can give just by talking to someone and showing them time, because they want to know what's going on in your life, because you might be connected to their kids. They want to know what's going on in your life because you might be connected to the future. You know about Bitcoin and Ethereum and cryptocurrency probably more than a lot of people. Most of your knowledge is bullshit, but you know some stuff. So have a conversation. Hey, Mr. Stewart, do you invest in crypto? No, I don't know anything about it. Oh, let's talk about it. So there's little bits that you can do to deliver value. And if you're coming from that viewpoint of, God, this guy paid for my limo bus and bought me dinner, what can I do for him? If you're coming from that giving attitude, it shows, first of all, it's not fake. And second of all, there is real value. And just trying is value.
To me, it boils down to the word thoughtful, like being thoughtful, either with just showing a random HR person that you've thought about their business, and your thoughts may have already been done, or, may not be feasible, but you're thinking about it. Yeah. And in all the examples that you gave, being thoughtful towards another person, even when you maybe don't think that you have anything of value to give, being thoughtful, talking to them, being personal goes a long way, as you alluded to. And I think that's great stuff.
And genuine. I think genuine, it's not fake. So back to the college application, my son did want to go to all those schools. And when he wrote his essay about how he saw himself living there, he did see himself living there. We didn't apply to the ones he didn't want to go to. So it was thoughtful. It was genuine. And to your point on visiting the website, back to the hard work of getting a job, mission, vision, values. They spent probably $30, $50, $150,000 on some consultant coming up with mission, vision, values. A lot of people in the company care about that. So you should know and weave into the vocabulary some of their value words and some of their mission and vision words. You should know what their people have been in the news talking about. And so when you come to the interview and you're not talking bullshit, like I hate little dogs, and I see that the owner of the company is a little dog lover and has a charity for little dogs. I'm not talking about that. I'm skipping that. I'm talking about what I'm interested in and what I can get passionate about. And if you read a few of their articles and you read their website and they're about us and their mission, vision, you're not going to talk about every mission and vision word. But I see that you're into thirst for learning. I've always had a thirst for learning. I was wondering, my question for you is, what's your favorite book that you've read recently? And that's genuine, right? And if you have a genuine discussion that's backed up by some of that front-loaded pre-work you do, you're going to knock their socks off. You're going to surprise them.
Yeah, the bar is actually set lower than I think a lot of people think.
Yeah, it's easy.
It starts with exactly what you said: genuineness, thoughtfulness.
And I mean, it's so easy to compete. 50% of them don't show up on time and do what they say. So do that. People used to ask me why I got this chairman of the board role that I had, which is a great role, flying around, helicopters, first class, Ritz-Carlton President Suite. How'd you get that job? Because I was the only person that got my shit done. Mm-hmm. Everybody else said they would do stuff and didn't do it. I always got it done. Out of 20,000 people, I'm the one. It's pretty easy to compete when nobody gets their shit done. Are we allowed to say shit on your podcast, by the way, Mike?
We're going to make an exception for you. No, I'm just kidding. It's totally okay. And encouraged.
Okay, good.
All right. I just have a couple more questions. I want to be respectful of your time, but it's really gotten me thinking, is college still the answer for a majority of people? Is it important for your businesses?
Yeah, that's interesting because I have construction companies. So one of our construction companies has, I think, 30 engineers. So you better have an engineering degree if you want to be an engineer. And I have these, my daughter's 17, so she's got these friends, and a couple of them are trying to talk their parents into giving them the money that they would spend on college so they can invest in real estate. First of all, I laugh at the entitlement of that. It's like, no, I'm keeping that money. And second of all, you think I'm going to give you a bunch of money to go invest in real estate? You have no idea what you're talking about. So for me, college is important for a few reasons. And I know it's not the only way. And I know Bill Gates didn't graduate, and I know there's exceptions, but one is prejudice in the world. And people always ask, where'd you go to college? Did you go to college? And if you didn't, there's an instant little flinch. And I try to live a flinch-free lifestyle. So you open a bunch of doors with that piece of paper. Second thing, got 4 years of your life doing nothing but learning how to be a human being and learning how to communicate and live with others, and also learning a subject. I have a history and political science degree. Who cares, right? But I learned how to write and I learned how to read. And I came into college not able to write a 3-page paper. I was spit out of college writing 20-page papers in an hour. So the 4-year focus on really learning and the 4-year focus on personal development, I think is really, really important. And then finally, you are exposed to a few things. So, I don't have a business degree. So I had to go back to school after college to learn about accounting and learn about finance. And I still don't have a degree in either of those. I wish I would have done it on the spot. Other people have to go back to learn about how to read and write. So I think between the doors that it opens and the prejudice it closes, and the amount of time that all these people are going to live anyway, that a 4-year focus to just get it done is worth all the doors that are open. And I have a lot of people that come across me and they go to City College and they want to not do the last 2 years. Or Emmy's talking to me the other day about how she wants to convert to real estate. She doesn't know how to real estate invest. So she can go and learn math, and she can go and learn investing, and she can go learn about the present value of dollars and what happens with your credit if you blow it. And she'll be spit out 4 years later, a much better real estate professional. So I do still, with all the flaws, I do still think it's worth the 4 years.
Is it mandatory, like in your hiring practices?
So we have different companies. So College Works, you have to be in college. The other companies, no, we do. It's not mandatory that you've been to college. It's not mandatory that you have a college degree. My business partner, I have 3 partners. One of my business partners never finished college, and he runs the biggest company we've got. So no, it's not mandatory. And there's different roles. I mean, a lot of construction jobs, it would make more sense to go to trade school than to go to college. But if you're in the accounting department, you need an accounting degree. If you're one of the executives, typically you've been to college because it starts to show, but not always.
Okay. Lastly, you mentioned your podcast. Could you give our audience kind of an overview of what it is, what you talk about, what you're trying to do with it, so they can tune in if they feel like they'd like to?
Well, I think it's a similar focus that you're doing, Mike. And I want to talk to you offline about where you came up with your idea, except you have way more people downloading it every day than I do. So congratulations. I think you're number 1 in the career category. So congratulations on your podcast. What I do is I bring in people I know, and I have them walk through what life was like in high school, life was like in college, and what they do now. So it's a career exposure to a bunch of different careers, and then a path exposure. So people can see the different paths. One guy had an issue with the law, let's say, and what his path was. Other people, grew up with a silver spoon in their mouth. Other people are immigrants. So all the different paths that people come into excellence from.
Got it. Okay. And what is the name of it?
It's called the Edge of Excellence Podcast.
Okay. So that's searchable. And we'll also link to it in the show notes, along with Matt's different companies and all that. Is there anything else you'd like to leave our audience with in terms of what they might need to know about you or any of your companies?
I think that as people are looking for their career, just have faith. I think that's the first thing. Have faith. You'll find it. This is a tough time in the world emotionally, and it may not happen right away. One of the people on my podcast says, when you're at your absolute low, that's when you have your best ideas. So have faith, keep trying, keep thinking, serendipity is real. You may stumble across something. And lastly, I'll put a plug in for those that want to be entrepreneurs for business partnerships. I would definitely not be as successful as I am without all the partners I've had and a variety of different businesses. I get to share ideas. I get to work on what my strengths are, where someone else works with what their strengths are. And I'm a big advocate of finding the right people to go into business with.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Really appreciated and enjoyed this conversation, and best of luck to you.
Well, thank you, Mike. I really appreciate you having me.
All right. Take care.